11.3?
Fourth game, right?
Fourth game, but it's before the fourth game. I don't care. How you doing, Alex?
Pretty good. Ready to talk some Huskers?
Yeah, Seth, how are you doing?
Great. My sister's getting married this weekend, so I got to do all the wedding prep stuff in addition to the Nebraska prep stuff. And fortunately, Central Michigan wasn't too hard to do a post game for.
No, it was not. I'm Brian Cook. This is MGoRadio. We are previewing the Nebraska Cornhuckers. The Nebraska Cornhuckers.
There it is.
There it is.
Do you want, while you're mispronouncing things, do you want to talk about our sponsors?
No, I would never mispronounce our sponsors. Never do that. We would like to thank Underground Printing for starting this and making it all possible. Jeez, I'm on one today. Stop by and pick up some gear. Check them out at ugpmichiganapparel.com or check out our selection of shirts on the mgoblogstore.com. Thank you to our associate sponsors, Peak Wealth Management, Matt Demarest, Realtor and Lender, Ann Arbor Elder Law, Michigan Law Grad, Human Element, Sharon's Heating and Air Conditioning, The Sklar Brothers, Windward Organics, Community Pest Solutions, Radicke Oral Surgery, Long Road Distillers, and Signalwire, where we currently record. All right, Nebraska is 3-0, coming off a narrow win in the opener against Cincinnati, 20-17, and then consecutive blowouts of what may be FBS's worst team in Akron and Houston Christian. So when Alex was doing the FIFO film this week, it was all about that Cincinnati game because it was the only one against reasonable competition, and I'm confused about the spread after reading his FFF on defense.
Well, first of all, that Cincinnati game needs to be said that I don't think Cincinnati's any good. They haven't been particularly good since they moved to Power Conference after Luke Fickell left, since they've been in the Big 12. They've been like a bottom half Big 12 team. They played Bowling Green the week after they played Nebraska. They only won by 14. If you look up the stats of war, did we really get beat that bad? Chart from that game, they were barely above Bowling Green in success rate. So I don't even think that game was like a great measuring stick, honestly, especially because it was a virtual home game in Arrowhead, a heavy Husker majority in that game. And so it just wasn't the most impressive performance, but I think name brand value and Raiola and the whole thing is definitely carrying some weight for Nebraska to start off just setting the lines.
So, I mean, the main thing that jumped out, of course, against Cincinnati was the fact that Cincinnati had 30 rushes for 6.7 yards an attempt and threw the ball with Brennan Sorsby 25 times for like 2 yards an attempt. Run the ball, Bobo. But, you got into looking at this defensive line, and I'm trying to parse out, like, who might be playing, because we're looking at guys who are not Hutmacher from last year. Like, it is kind of shocking that this is year 3 and the state of the Nebraska defensive line is what it looks like it is.
Yeah, it's definitely a concern. And in general, I don't like to base too much on one game, but the defensive line was my question with this team coming into the year. When I was looking at Nebraska's roster and the enemy ranked and in just surveying ready for the season, that was the big question. Because if you watch Nebraska over the previous couple of years, and they had a good defense last year, but it was built around that defensive front. They had 2 really, really good defensive tackles, not just Hutmacher, but Ty Robinson, who was a draft pick of the Eagles. And those 2 players were kind of the meat of it. And then they leave, and there was just a lot of question about who was replacing them. And so then you go and watch the first game, and it was really bad. And the defensive tackles in particular were the main source of the problem, but there was issues supporting the run from the linebacker level, from the edge level, from cornerbacks. But it did come down to like Elijah Judy, who is a starter for them. I don't probably think he should be starting, but I don't know the backups are any better. But like the first run of the game, he is driven 8 yards back.
He's absolutely donkeyed into a linebacker, yeah.
And I'm watching that snap, and I'm just like, what in the world? And it just kind of continued the whole game from him. And like Riley Van Poppel had some decent rushes on pass rush, but couldn't really do anything against the run. Davis, their other starter, had enough signs of life to avoid the Siam, but some really rough snaps as well. Jalen George, a backup, was rough.
So Davis, we got to say, he's a true sophomore. He was just a 3-star recruit, and he's listed at 275 pounds. And that's the good defensive tackle.
So I wanted to get into this. So the defense that they run, this last year was a 3-3-5, and John Butler was there. He's the defensive coordinator, but John Butler kind of comes down from a different piece of the tree that loves to play with tiny guys. So what he does, he moved like a cornerback who was 5'9", Malcolm Herzog, moved him to nickel, moved Deshaun Singleton, who was the nickel before, to the rover hybrid space player spot, made Deshaun McCullough, who's just a linebacker. You remember him being the middle linebacker for Indiana. He's their edge, and nobody got any bigger. Everybody on this defense is just small. So even like the middle linebacker is like a 6'5", 220 guy or something like that. So they all look like tight ends on the linebacker level.
When you talk about McCullough, this is a 6'5", 235-pound guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a straight up end for them. This isn't like a 3-3-5 anymore. This is like who he is. He's
it's
like a
kind of so they stuck with a 3-3-5, but it ends up being a 4-2-5 all the time. It's just the way that and then they move everybody around. So we were talking about that one play where the defensive tackle gets completely, ham blasted. That actually started with him stunting. And then he stunts, and they pick up the stunt, and then they just drive him forever. And that's what they have to do with this defensive line. They're trying to, it still works like a 3-3-5 where they're stunting the different gaps. Everyone's trying to confuse you. They're trying to not have the same look. But if you get them blocked up correctly, you remember this game against them in 23 where Michigan had, the Trevor Keegan offense, right? That's how you want to beat these guys. Have the Keegan and Zinter who know what they're doing, who recognize who's stunting at the point, and then it's just a physical game. And once it becomes that, you just blow these guys off the ball.
I mean, it's hard for me to Judy might be getting phased out because he had 32 snaps in the opener, 19 in game 2, 12 in game 3. And then I'm looking at this Houston Christian Pro Football Focus page, just to figure out who was on the field at defensive tackle for these guys. And the guy who got the most snaps at defensive tackle was actually a true freshman defensive end named Cade, Pierzak, who is 265. And for me, I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, this could be one of two things. This could be, it's Houston Christian, we're just putting guys out there to get snaps. Or it could be like, we're trying to find a solution here, and this is one of our options. So it just feels like Judy was so bad in the opener, and then you're looking at the options to replace him, and none of them have any sort of story that's plausible, especially because, Judy came in as the starter for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he had a ton of not a ton, but he had 150 run defense snaps logged previous to this year. He graded out horribly. And for him to not get displaced through fall camp, I don't know if this is a situation that the Cornhuskers are going to be able to rescue.
Doesn't feel like they're going to be able to, honestly. We need to see some more games, but that tape against Cincinnati was so bad. And there just wasn't really a huge difference between starters and backups. I mean, Pierzak, or whatever his name is, he played 3 or 4 snaps in that game. As you mentioned, true freshman, undersized. There's no real reason to think that's a better solution. It reminds me of a couple games in the past. There was the one year with Rutgers where they had the really light defensive tackles, and I was like, man, these guys can't play at all. And then national championship game against Washington, those tackles were pretty rough. There's been a few times over the years we've come across this. And generally speaking, Michigan has really handled those situations quite well. And this seems like another very favorable mismatch for Michigan.
Yeah,
especially.
Sorry, go ahead.
Especially because, I just got done grading a UFR against a team that doesn't have very good defensive tackles, and Crippen was outstanding. So if he's able to be outstanding against a bad defensive line, and you're getting another bad defensive line, I feel like whatever weaknesses Michigan might have on the interior OL, they don't feel like ones that Nebraska is in any position to exploit. Seth.
Yeah. They're 9th in S&P Plus right now. Part of that is because Cincinnati is the only game they could grade against. Cincinnati also had a lot of drops, so even given Sorsby, we know Sorsby, but even then, they just had a whole bunch of drops when they could have had, probably could have gotten up to 4.5 yards per throw. But that's that's where they're strong. They have Marcus Buford they got him back. He was supposed to be out of eligibility, but then the NCAA granted an extra year to former JUCOs, so he's back. Markham Hartzog has been playing for them for 4 years. You started against us in 23. Andrew Marshall is a guy who stuck out when I was previewing New Mexico because he played for Idaho last year, and he stuck out in that game against Oregon. So he's their boundary corner. Sayer, right? He's a 5-star that Michigan wanted to recruit, right? He was he's also a kind of famous dude. He was in he's a famous actor. But all their Deshaun Singleton was that hybrid space player who's pretty good. So you mentioned all their best players on defense are all in the secondary. So this is a game like early in the preview when we were writing Hail the Victors. We were like, okay, this is a game where Michigan matches up well because the one thing they can do is cover you. And they want to attack you. They want to push you out to the edges. And Michigan, what do they want to do? They want to hit you up the gut, right? They're going to run some power. They can run stretch now. And that was like the one concern. When I wrote in Hail the Victors, I was like, the one thing is Michigan can't really run stretch, and that's the best way to beat these guys. Well, if they can run stretch now, yeah, I think this is a terrible matchup for Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to go back to the Cincinnati rushing numbers. So 6.7 yards in the 10th against Nebraska. They go out the next week against Bowling Green. They put up 3.7, And that's year one for Eddie George at Bowling Green. This is not anywhere near like a team that you're going to, they're going to win the MAC.
Right.
So, like, I would, if I'm a Nebraska fan, I'm looking at that particular matchup and it's just all alarm bells. Now, the other thing is that I'm not sure that they have much of a pass rush because, McCullough has never been that guy, and he has like 900 snaps in college coming into the season. And then their other end, like, is a platoon, and those guys had like a 5% win rate against Cincinnati. Go ahead, Alex.
It doesn't seem like they do. There really just wasn't much pressure in that game. Nothing organic. They blitz a lot, didn't really do a ton, and yet Brendan Sorsby was bugging out of the pocket and running into the rush, and just it's brutal stuff to watch at points. But it just doesn't seem like they have anything there. The thing I wanted to add about your thing about the yards per carry clip, Cincinnati's longest rush in this game was, I think, like 29 yards. And so it's not like, it wasn't like they had an 82-yard rush that skewed the average. It was consistent down to down 6-7 yard chunks.
Yeah. So PFF has like a design runs of 15 plus yards. There's one in that game. It was exactly 15. The 29 yards was a scramble. But after last week with Bryce Underwood, getting 100 yards on the ground, that feels like not like something that Nebraska fans should be like, oh, that was just scramble. That's not a problem. Like, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, well, their best player is Marcus Buford, who's we were trying to decide who could be a black shirt or a star on the danger man on this defense, because Alex was like, I don't really like any of these guys, but Buford is not huge. He's a kind of a Tyree Cannell kind of guy, but he's solid. He makes his tackles. He's not, one of the things about the CMU game is that once Bryce Underwood gets against a safety or a cornerback, it was like, that guy's not making it up. This time, they'll run 15 yards or 10 yards after a scramble, and then it'll be first down again.
Yeah, I mean, the secondary, I think, is a little, like, we have a baseline for it. It should be decent based on their career, because Buford and Hartzog in particular are two guys who started in the 2022 game against Michigan in Ann Arbor. So they've been around. And the defensive backfield kind of reminds me of the OL, which I don't know if we'll get to at some point later on, but both are similar in that they've got a lot of older guys, not really stars, but just solid older veteran players. So I expect a higher level of competence there. We just haven't seen them pass defended all this season. They haven't faced a single, even semi-competent passing offense. And that's where we'll probably learn a little bit more in this game from what Michigan can do.
From a Michigan perspective, we think El Hadi is going to be out based on press conference comments. Brady Norton might be back. And I think that's it in terms of like important injuries. And then the question is, like, are they going to feel comfortable running Bryce Underwood? Like, what does the run pass mix look like? Do they have the ability to sustain what they were able to do last week against Central Michigan at all? Because Central Michigan is ranked about where Akron is right now. So like it is one of those things where it's like, that was really great, but I don't know how real any of that was.
It's going to be a very different, because my recollection of previewing CMU, when you did the UFR on it, I think you came to the same conclusion, is they don't really do anything interesting. It's like the same front every single play, and then they just try to move guys around. But Nebraska is going to give you a different front. It's going to be a lot more like the Oklahoma. They're just going to try to confuse you up front. They're going to try to bring guys down. I was thinking, they might be able to hit these guys in some long passes like they did in 23, where you remember they just that was Dig City, right? That was when they were they had no other option because they have to react so quickly to play action, and everyone's stepping down. Safeties and whatnot are all stepping down. So you end up getting Hartzog matched 1-on-1 with Roman Wilson back then, and then they need a safety to help him there. So then there's nobody for Cornelius Johnson. So that's kind of I think where our passing game might be able to. That's where the question is: are they going to be able to fit it up because it's going to look weird, right? And then I wish we had Al-Hadi for this one because he's supposed to be a senior. But you said that the Phobie was actually doing pretty well finding his blocks.
I mean, the grade I had didn't feel like we'll talk about this later, but yeah. I'm a little squirrely about that. But then you go back, look at the Cincinnati game, and they blitzed like you had a different number than PFF actually did, Alex. But PFF had them blitzing a 42% rate. And their pressure rate was like 22%. So if you're getting a pressures at half the rate you're blitzing, I mean, there's only so much you can talk about. Like, well, they're clever and they're coming from different angles if they're not actually getting anywhere near the quarterback. And then if you blitz and it gets picked up and you got Bryce Underwood, like I feel like they're going to be in a bunch of hurt as long as Michigan doesn't just blindly run into super stack boxes. Like, they've run a lot of play action this year. That's definitely a Chip Lindsey thing. That's new. Like the amount that they've run play action this year versus the last few years is night and day. So I kind of feel like as long as they keep that path where like they're showing them run action and Nebraska's freaking out because they know that their defensive tackles can't hold up, then I think Bryce Underwood is going to have the ability to like pop up and hit Marlon Klein, hit RPOs. Like I think he can be productive even though the secondary is pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that stuck out in the Cincinnati tape that I'd like to see is Michigan spread out their skill position guys a little bit more. Like, there's probably a world where if you come up in a pretty tight jumbo set and you get maybe Bredesen and Marlon Klein are just able to block Nebraska's guys and create advantages there. But what Cincinnati was able to do so well is go empty or go in 11 and flex the tight end out, and they'd get these really weak boxes from Nebraska. 4-man front, 1 linebacker in the box, and that's how you profit. Like Nebraska needs that manpower advantage to make up for the fact their defensive tackles can't play. And if you got them in a lighter box, then you could eject the defensive tackles. They had no issue getting up to the second level. If there's only one linebacker there, all of a sudden you're at 10 yards right there, and then you hit the safety, and that's how they were able to rip off these chunks. And I feel like if you come out with pretty tight formations, allowing Nebraska to just load up, that is how they need to make up for it with what's going on the defensive line. So I would recommend trying to just spread it out a little bit more and really isolate those matchups with the tackles.
All right, we're going to take a break, come back, and talk about the Nebraska offense.
Since 2001, Underground Printing has been the Ann Arbor original. Starting from a West Quad dorm room and growing into the go-to source for custom apparel and Michigan gear. Whether you're gearing up for game day or creating custom design for your team or business, Underground Printing has you covered. With 3 convenient stores right on campus, getting your hands on high-quality Wolverine gear has never been easier. Visit Underground Printing today, in-store or online at shop.undergroundshirts.com, where Michigan pride meets top-notch service.
1, 2, 3 into the 4th win over Ohio State in a row.
Defeats Ohio State 42-27. The final score from Columbus 45-23. Michigan. And I don't know it. Michigan defeats Ohio State 30-24. The Wolverines win it 13-10.
Hey, it's Nick Hopwood, CFP, founder and president at Peak Wealth Management. Retire with peak confidence. You can learn more at peakwm.com/mgoblog. I'm pretty good at spotting trends in financial planning and in the marketplace. I think I just found another one. Cheers to 5 in a row.
The only thing we can be sure of about the future is that it will be absolutely fantastic. I'm thinking of the incredible breakthrough made possible by developments in communications.
Arthur C. Clarke's 1964 vision is now reality with Signalwire, a cloud platform that enables developers to build the applications that will reshape the future of communications.
These things will make possible a world in which we can be in instant contact with each other wherever we may be.
You can add cutting-edge, real-time video and audio to any product, website, or application with APIs and SDKs for developers of all skill sets. Signalwire is optimized for high-quality and low-latency communication functionality for video, voice, and text messaging capabilities.
Almost any skill could be made independent of distance. Men will no longer commute. They will communicate.
See for yourself at signalwire.com. Use code 2021 and receive $25 in developer credit. Go to signalwire.com.
Signalwire Communications OGs, original geeks of programmable communication.
Is your online store sluggish, outdated, underperforming? You may be suffering from chronic crappy website disorder. 1 in 3 online stores built by your brother's friend's nephew currently suffers from chronic crappy website. But now, there's hope. Introducing Human Element. Huel has helped hundreds suffering from CCW to turn their online stores around, creating fast, secure, and engaging online experiences that turn visitors into customers and put products back at the top of their search engine game.
Before Huel, I had abandoned carts, browser errors, and poorly animated GIFs. Now, with Huel, I can focus on what I'm actually good at, running my business.
Jeffrey, would you be a dear and pull the Ferrari around?
Side effects may include increased traffic, customer conversions, better ROI, compliments, elation, and early retirement. Why live with the disappointment of chronic crappy website disorder? Speak to your Human Element consultant today to see if Huel is right for you.
Welcome back to 11.4 MGoRadio. There we go. Wonderful. having a good one today, guys.
Versus the what were we called again? The Nebraska.
Nebraska Corn Huckers or whatever.
Yes.
Anyway, we turn our attention to the Nebraska offense. Obviously, Dylan Raiola is the star of the show here, but what jumps out on the chart that you guys put together for FFFFFFF is that there are no stars. There's one. There's Dane Key, the Kentucky transfer wide receiver, and it seems like everybody else is just a guy. And I feel like Luke Lindenmeyer, the starting tight end, doesn't get to wear 44, not in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with this Nebraska team in general is I'm not sure who and where the future pros are on this team. Like, they have a lot of just solid players, but not a ton that jumps out at you. Dane Key, I think, will probably get drafted, and Hunter, the other transfer wide receiver from Cal, is also pretty solid. I think that's probably the best part of this offense. But what's curious about it is they didn't really use it against Cincinnati. And this is where we're kind of flying in the dark because they played 2 irrelevant opponents the next 2 weeks, and they were able to kind of do whatever they wanted. But in the one game against a power conference opponent, they really showed a conservative passing attack. It was a ton of check down, really short stuff, little hitches to the wide receivers, dump it off to the running back over the middle for 4 yards. Raiola's yards per attempt in that game was, I don't remember what it was off the top of my head, it was around 6, I think. And I would have loved to see like the NFL next gen map of his targets in this game, because it was just all within 10 yards line of scrimmage. I mean, I don't even think they attempted more than 3 or 4 passes beyond 15 yards in this game. So is Raiola just kind of a check down Charlie now? I don't really know, but he was in that game. And that's where we're going to learn some things about this passing attack and what they plan to do with Raiola here in his second season.
Yeah, so one play of more than 20 yards against Cincinnati, 6 attempts in the intermediate range, and then 25 short, along with 8 behind the line of scrimmage. That is wild.
Is that just Cincinnati's defense? Maybe
that's like Brendan Sorsby, like that. That's like what you expect when you okay. How long did this guy play for Northwestern? And why is he Dylan Raiola? Like, this is like when you get Brendan Sullivan on your team and you're like, oh yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, that's the Noah Vedral offense, to throw another name out there. 5.8 was the yards per attempt. Raiola was 33 of 42 for 5.8 yards per attempt.
I mean, this is Dana Holgerson's offense. They brought in Holgerson last year as a consultant, and then sunset the offensive coordinator in the middle of the season.
Holgo is not. We throw everything within 10 yards. Like, he's an air raid guy.
He is an air raid guy, yeah.
This is extreme.
Well, here's the thing about the air raid is they take what you give them, right? The air raid is whatever your defense is doing, we're going to hit you where they ain't. So you can kind of dictate what you want them to do. So that's why I asked, like, was that a response to Cincinnati's defense? Because if you are just playing cover 2 and you're giving them, dinks all the time, they're going to dink. That's how that offense works.
I don't know.
Do we think this might be related to pass protection?
I don't think so. I'm wondering if it's more just like Raiola's decision-making being a potential issue, because he had 2 balls in this game that were pretty concerning. There's a 4th down play where he gets hit as he throws, and instead of just taking the sack, he tries to make a hero ball play, and a defensive player... Yes, but the defensive player jumps the route and should have had a pick 6 that would have won Cincinnati the game. It was a bad decision. And there was another really interceptable ball where it seemed like when pressure came, he kind of freaked out a little bit. So I think it's a way, possibly with pass protection, but I think this is an okay pass protecting line. It just feels like running that kind of approach is hiding something. And I just wonder if they don't fully trust him to take care of the football. Last year, he had 11 interceptions in a 13-game season. So that could be it.
He didn't get pressure very much against Cincinnati because of the nature of the offense. But when he did, 9 dropbacks, 5 attempts, 2 completions for 4 yards, and 2 turnover-worthy passes per Pro Football Focus. So maybe that's part of it, is that when he does get pressured and when he's trying to read it out more than like 1 or 2 reads downfield, he's just not there yet.
Yeah, but I still feel like they should use their receivers more coming off of that game, because their one play that you talked about above 20 yards was just a punt up, go get it for Hunter, and he went and got it. And then they were in the red zone, and they threw a goal line fade, and he went and got it, and it was a nice touchdown catch. And it feels like that's something they should utilize. And that's honestly the area of probably biggest concern coming into this game is I don't know what the injury situation at corner is. Are we going to have Jaden Sanders on Dane Key? That could be a little bit of a concern. And Jair Hill against Hunter. Those would be areas I would look towards. And so even if you're worried about pass protection, bad decisions, just throw it up for these guys and see what they can do. And they were just really hesitant to do it in that game whatsoever. And it was quite striking.
Yeah, Nyzia Hunter, I forget the numbers, but last year for Cal, he was one of the best in the country at contested balls. I know he's only 6'1", 205, but he is a contested ball catcher, right? He is the kind of guy you want to put it up to. Dane Key, Michigan wanted that guy bad, right? He's a star. And Nebraska really went out this year. They tried to put the pieces around Dylan Raiola. That was they had a lot of money that they put into their offensive line. And what's interesting is Elijah Pritchett was like one of the top tackles in the in the portal. He was, an Alabama starter, and they got him. He's not even starting. And then Rocco Spindler was the guy that people were mad that Michigan wasn't going after because he, almost went to Michigan. And the kind of word from Nebraska fans is they don't really like him either. So I wonder if they're just getting pressure up the middle from the right, or at least from the right side.
So at running back, Emmett Johnson already entered this year with about 200 carries, so pretty good baseline in him. And that baseline is just a guy?
Probably. He seemed fine, but I'm not anything I'm super worried about. He seems pretty solid, but not a star in my eyes.
Yeah, I kind of like their true freshman Mosey. He was I don't know if they're going to use him much in this game, but he's kind of an H. Well, he's a spread H. So they have some interesting things they do with him. And Nebraska Talk, and kind of, the guy who does our ads is also runs Husker Max. And they're pretty excited about Mosey as kind of their gadget guy.
All right, so I mean, this is an offense that is going to test Michigan's secondary in a way that has been tested this year before by John Mateer and didn't really come through with flying colors. Did all right though. It seems like they don't have the quarterback run aspect, and it kind of feels like that ground game is going to be kind of, well, how do I want to put this? Boring. Like, they'll probably pick up 3 yards here, 5 yards there, but they don't have a lot of explosion in the ground game. So what they're going to have to do to get explosive plays is rely on Raiola throwing the ball more than 10 yards downfield, which they did not do against the Cincinnati Bearcats.
Yeah, it does feel that way. I don't have a huge concern about the run game as a whole. Like, the offensive line is fine. It's old, it's experienced, but doesn't, again, where are like the future pros on this line? And so as a result, they're going to have to do more with Raiola, I think, unless their defense is a lot better than we think. And that'll be one of the kind of questions of this game. Like, it's week 4, and yet I still think we're going to learn a lot about Nebraska just because they haven't really played anybody.
All right, special teams of note.
Aussie kick, Aussie punter. Ja'Cory Barney, actually, he's their slot receiver. He's a pretty good returner. He had he catches 70% of punts, which is tops in the Big Ten this year, and he was pretty good last year. He's
wait, where are you getting that stat?
I pulled it from PFF. I can't remember where I.
Okay.
Yeah, I just pulled everybody's. It's early in the season, so those stats can bounce around, but it's something I've been watching because I think that punts inbounds caught is kind of a notable stat for punters that I'm trying to see if it matters, and he sticks out, and he's also someone who's been mentioned as a returner. He does like to bring it out on kick returns, so those might be relevant this game.
All right, do we have a score prediction, Alex?
21-16, Michigan.
That
30-24.
All right, I think I got something like 32-15.
That's a lot of confidence there, Brian.
I look at this rush defense, and it's just like you can't have that rush defense against Michigan. Like, I know this isn't like Michigan from a couple years ago, but can't get your ass kicked by Cincinnati.
True freshman quarterback on the road, man. Like, I gotta give.
Maybe I'll dial it back. Dialing it back.
All right.
A little bit. It's like 26-15. There we go.
Dial it back. All
right. We're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back. Are we doing bacon or are we doing
bacon
first?
Let's do some bacon.
All right, we're gonna come back with John U. Bacon, who has a new book out about Jim Harbaugh's favorite song.
If you grew up in Michigan like me, you were a Pistons fan. We always hated the Bulls and Michael Jordan, but we were super jealous of their starting lineup introductions with the music and the lights turned off. But then I grew up and realized how awesome Jordan was. And in 2016, when Michigan was the first school to wear Jordan brand, then Jordan was on the field as honorary captain for the first game, and I've never cheered louder, except when Jaden Milroe was stuffed on 4th and goal at the Rose Bowl. Hey, it's Nick Hopwood, Certified Financial Planner with Peak Wealth Management. I want to introduce you to our new PCS program, Private Client Services, where our fees will now include your annual tax prep costs and getting your estate plan set up. Our clients love that their investments, financial plan, taxes, and estate plan are all tied together with us as the lead. If you're looking for a second opinion, please reach out to us at peakwm.com/mgoblog today.
It's the time of year where cracks in your defense get exposed. Good thing to fix is a phone call away. Community Pest Solutions is a lockdown defender for homes and businesses. If you're hearing noises in your walls or attic or dealing with bug problems, it's time to call Community. To schedule an inspection, just Google Community Pest Solutions or hit up their website at pestfreemi.com.
Hi, this is Pete with Sharon's Heating and Air Conditioning. You've probably noticed that we are terrible about keeping our podcast advertisements up to date and topical to Michigan sports, probably because we're so busy doing preventative maintenance for all of our many happy customers. We know no one is excited to call their HVAC contractor, And to make that a rare occurrence, you should regularly maintenance your system. Call us or text us to find out more about the benefits of our preventative maintenance plans, including savings on service calls and priority scheduling. Whatever the season, we want you to be comfortable for that next glorious Michigan victory.
Need help with insurance? Well, longtime MGoBlog supporter Owen Rosen is back at his new insurance brokerage, Royal Oath Insurance Group. Owen might not be the knowledge, but he and his team have the life, business, car, and home insurance knowledge you need. Based in Michigan, but they can also help in other states too, you can call or text Owen today at 586-229-1026 or visit Royal Oath, that's OATH, insurance.com.
1 and 2 and...
If you find yourself on the wrong side of the law, you want a Michigan man in the huddle. Call criminal law attorney and former prosecutor Jonathan Paul at 248-924-9458 or visit his website at michiganlawgrad.com. John is a proud graduate of the University of Michigan Ross School of Business and Michigan Law School, and he looks forward to showing you the Michigan difference. Since 2001, Underground Printing has been the Ann Arbor original, starting from a West Quad dorm room and growing into the go-to source for custom apparel and Michigan gear. Whether you're gearing up for game day or creating custom design for your team or business, Underground Printing has you covered. With 3 convenient stores right on campus, getting your hands on high-quality Wolverine gear has never been easier. Visit Underground Printing today, in-store or online at shop.undergroundshirts.com, where Michigan pride meets top-notch service.
Welcome back to MGoRadio 11.4. Welcome in John U. Bacon. How you doing, John U. Bacon?
I'm doing shockingly well. Brian, how about you?
Good. I want to correct a misconception readers may have based on the end of the previous segment. You wrote a book about the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, but you did not write a book about the Gordon Lightfoot song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Correct. It is a larger subject than just the song. Turns out, Brian, it's very hard to get 400 pages out of one song. So, well, how long it may be.
Well, you could try.
Well, it's in there. There's a whole
Hey, Seth read the damn thing.
Yeah, no, there's a whole
on the creation of the song. Very unlikely. We do have a chapter on the success of the song. Also unlikely. So the fact that we're still talking about that song 50 years later is rather striking.
Does Jim Harbaugh get a reference during this chapter, though?
He does not. Sorry.
Oh, this is why you need to let me edit your books, Fakes.
This theory has been posited several times.
The interesting thing about the song is that the article that was written about this, the article that basically went national and everybody learned about the sinking, is like 90% of the song. Like even like some of the things that he mentions, like the 29 bells at Mariners Church and whatnot, like it's all from the one guy writing an article at the last minute.
True. 2 guys actually. One guy is Associated Press writer Harry Atkins. You guys probably been reading his articles for many years. Sports writer. He had Larry Lage's job before Larry Lage, and Larry Lage is now Harry Atkins. I was dumbstruck to learn from Larry Lage that Harry Atkins is the guy who got in a car that night to go to the UP and first read the story for the Associated Press. Did a great job. Newsweek picks that up 2 weeks later. A guy named Jim Gaines, a Michigan Daily alum. It turns out he's also still alive. I kept getting lucky as far as that goes. And he wrote it so beautifully that, as you say, many of those lines are in the song. 90% is a stretch, but God bless you. But I don't think the song gets written if Lightfoot does not read Jim Gaines' article. It's that much a part of the song. So all that part is true. And how long ago was that? They also introduced a debut column from 34-year-old George Will in that issue. So that's how long ago this was. But yes, the song, without the song, there is no book. And we know that.
So what did you, I mean, how familiar were you with the story of the sinking of Edmund Fitzgerald when you got into this? Like, what did you learn? What's the most important or puzzling or fun thing that you learned in the course of writing this book?
A few things, of course. I'd say 95% of it I didn't know, and I thought I did. One is that the Great Lakes are actually more dangerous than the ocean. Talk to any experienced sailors, and they'll tell you that. John Hayes sailed 23 years in Great Lakes freighters and then 12 years in the ocean. Said it's not even close. And I talked to a lot of guys who told me this. Salt water smashes the waves down. It makes them smooth and roller coasters. Freshwater, they're like points, they're mountaintops, and they're twice as fast together. So the period, as I say, is not 8 seconds, but 4 seconds. That means you can have your bow carrying 26,000 tons of iron in one wave, and then 700 feet later, have your stern in another wave, and that's when the ships crack. And that happens incredibly quite often. There are 6,000 shipwrecks on the Great Lakes from 1875 to 1975, and not one since. So the reforms they had from this one accident have saved countless lives. So that was a surprise. Next thing was this is supposed to be their last run of the season. And they tacked it on one more week because the captain, McSorley, the best captain on the Great Lakes, by all accounts, good guy too. He needed to get a bonus to pay for his wife's health care, probably cancer. So another tragedy on top of tragedies. And one last one for you, Brian. Bruce Hudson, only child of Ruth Hudson from Cleveland, just got his girlfriend pregnant in Toledo. Finds out about it by phone in September. He does not get off till November. About to go on a cross-country trip with his buddy from the ship in an old muscle car. Of course, the ship goes down. Ruth Hudson thinks she's lost her only son. 6 months later, she's got her only granddaughter. So stories like that just kept on happening and happening. When you sell a proposal to a publisher, you're basically saying, I'm a geologist and there's oil down there, promise. And then they call your bluff and give you a contract. Then you hope like hell there's oil down there. In this case, the oil just kept on coming up. I got 6 guys who had been on the ship before it went down, obviously. I don't know if there are any more than that. I got one guy who was on the Arthur Anderson that night chasing the Fitz. We got a very good sense of what it was like that night, therefore. And I got to 9 of the 29 families. So all that is all untold before.
Yeah. Brian and I, when I told him what you were writing your next book about, we were going to do this second, he's just like, okay, that
Here comes the joke. Go ahead.
That is the most John Bacon story I've ever heard. Right?
Like,
but
you gotta look at this man's body of work. Like, he's written about the history of Michigan hockey. He's written about college football.
Mm-hmm.
He's written about, the Halifax explosion. He's written about what's the most recent one? God.
Let Them Lead.
Yeah.
High school hockey team.
Right. The Summit series. You're written about the Summit series. Like, this is like right in the Venn diagram of all of those things. Right?
Like the most it's Michigan 70s Great Lakes industrial.
Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah. It's
on
like
the
it's like upper Midwest war dad content.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I'm surprised he hasn't written this book before. Like, what took you so long, Bacon?
I had to get an agent to say yes. I pitched it 20 years ago and they said no.
Well, there you go.
But I mean, it is
back it up. That phrase, I need to put that on my cards. What'd you call it? Something war dad.
Upper Midwest war dad.
Content,
Upper Midwest war dad content.
Yeah.
That's what I deliver.
I mean, this is where we're going to turn Bacon even more red than he is. But if you've read Bacon books and you read the site, you probably have. It's so focused on. It's so full of humanity. The integrity really comes out. It is Bacon knows how to tell a personal story inside of a giant story. And, you mentioned the guy with his wife, you come back to this visual all the time of this Dodge Charger sitting on the pier, ready to go across country and have like this, this life about to begin. And that's the thing. He really kind of brings you into these lives of these guys that were on the Edmund Fitzgerald. Because these guys died a long time ago, and their lives are not all people that we knew. It's not like we were rooting for these guys as athletes or anything. These are, sailors from the 1970s. But they all become people that you do know, especially you've grown up in Michigan or in the Midwest. You know these people. You know these families, you know these kinds of families, you know the kind of people that it affected, and it's, there's the grandpa with all the, wants to come and watch the Monday Night Football game, and there's the guys who go out to rescue them who, just got done with a long trip trying to pull all the boys in Lake Superior, and they get back and they think they got their day off, and the day before this happens, it's like 70 degrees out in November.
In Duluth.
In Duluth, right. It's a beautiful day, and you get this, the whole thing comes together, and it's such a human piece. And I've read other things because I make a Midwestern war dad just as much as anybody else. And so I've read stuff on the.
You're literally a Midwestern war dad.
Like, yes, yes, I'm the guy they're talking
Brian,
about.
Well respect. So are you, pal?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, he is a history major. He's like, like he's up higher in the firmament of war dads than I am.
Higher in the firmament of war dads.
I wish I didn't know so much about history right now. But this is this is my this is.
If I get a phone call about you, Seth,
didn't say anything here.
From the FCC, perhaps.
Yeah, we're getting shut down. Our advertisers are pulling out right now. But I've heard this story told many times in many different ways, and a lot of the ways that they talk about it is they go into like the fights that happen afterwards, and Bacon skips all of that. Bacon talks about the people who were on the ship, the people who were left on the shore, the industry and how it worked, right, and how these guys would just the back and forth and the system. Right, just kind of cheating the plinth line, which is the safety line of how much you want to fill this thing, right? And how the Edmund Fitzgerald was literally designed to use every single inch in the suit locks, so you can get as much, taconite ore, and it goes from the auto industry and how the industry works and how the captains try to make their numbers. Every little piece comes together into this reaction. And this is exactly how history works. Everyone's got their own little part to play in a system that has to change. And like you mentioned, after 1975, there are no more shipwrecks in the Great Lakes. Before that, you talk about in this book some of the shipwrecks and some of the harrowing human stories which every sailor knows about. Every sailor has heard the stories, or even new guys who were in a 1950s shipwreck where guys spend all, for multiple days starving in freezing water, right? It's terrible.
In a raft.
In a raft. So you have these horrible stories where one guy just jumps overboard. You can't take it anymore, right? And everyone knew these stories. But they didn't change anything until this happens. And it's an incredible story, I think, just from a history perspective, to go all the way down to the Dart Charger, and then all the way back out to why the industry and how Great Lakes shipping works and why it works the way it does and why it was the way it was. And it's such a marvelous job of bringing those things together without getting into these tiny political and argument stories that everyone else gets into when they talk about this story. So, I've read all the other Edmund Fitzgerald books, and I thought I knew what I was getting into, and then, once again, Bacon, you have a way of bringing the humanity and the history together in such a way that it makes it important to read this story, even if you think you know the story already.
Seth, when you're talking like that, I'm not going to cut you off. Thank you.
Hey, you never said that about me.
I work for you because I love your writing. Do you want me to get sappy all day here?
No,
really lose our advertisers.
No, it's called Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
No, it's called The Gales of November.
Yeah, it is not called
The Gales of November.
Brian, you're not helping at all.
It's called Get Your Gumi Got Me.
The less you talk, Brian, the more my sales will go up, actually.
It's called The Gales of November. It's by John U. Bacon. It will be adapted into a movie, probably. I don't know, maybe.
It's actually possible. There's
with Matt Damon.
There you go.
I mean, talking about Midwestern war dads, Matt Damon. People like him. He was in.
People do like Matt Damon. That's true. Yeah. You see the relative levels of critiques here.
Then we'll have a Saving Matt Damon trilogy. That'd be perfect.
Fantastic monologue. Goes 5 minutes.
Bacon, you always publish your books like in August, when I can't read any books that I don't have time. I got to preview the season. You gotta publish in like March. That's a nice time to publish.
Yeah, football books in March sell really well.
This is not a football book.
No, but as Seth knows, the 50th anniversary is November 10th of this fall. So should I have it come out in March or November 10th? Probably not. So it comes out October 7th, not August. October 7th. Once again, a central fact completely blown. only two facts you have to come out with here.
Yeah.
One is the freaking title, all right?
Yeah.
The actual title.
Which is The Gales of November.
The one on the book, for
On the
example.
book.
Yes, that one. All right. And then
It's coming out October 7th.
Yes.
I thought you said October 5th.
So,
And on that date, I'll be at Rackham, right here in town, supported by Schuler Books. Should be a sellout. It has been in the past. They've got free tickets at Schuler Books, or you can get on johnnubacon.com and do all that. We just posted an hour ago the entire schedule for the fall. 20-some stops: Cleveland, Ann Arbor, Miami, D.C., Atlanta, Chicago, Indianapolis, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Duluth, Marquette, Traverse City, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
JohnUBacon.com is where you can find that, right?
Correct.
And you can pre-order the book from JohnUBacon.com.
And you can buy it in advance on Amazon, local bookstores, all that stuff. So
there you go. The Gales of November by John U. Bacon, coming on October 7th. Thank you for joining us.
I saw you looking to your left when you read that.
I like looking to my left. What can I say?
How about this? I love you anyway, Brian.
Oh, that's very sweet.
There we go. You got a song in our house. I love you anyway. There. Comes in handy.
Oh, I thought it was going to be I love Brian Cook.
Hey, if you're not,
I was like, hey, this is a John U. Bacon family. Like they.
My favorite thing to do, though, when Brian and I go out for beers, we talk Michigan hockey, Michigan football, all the usual stuff. All right. But my favorite thing to do is give him a sincere, specific compliment. Nothing makes him squirm more than that. That is the best.
That's true. All right, we're going to take a break, come back, and discover what we discovered in UFR this week.
Hey, fellow Michigan fans, this is Matt Demarest, Realtor and Lender. For a decade now, you've heard me on the podcast talk about mortgages, and I've helped hundreds of fellow Michigan fans in that capacity, including Brian and Seth. But many of you don't know I'm a real estate broker as well. I promise to make buying, selling, or financing a home simple and cost-effective anywhere in the state of Michigan. Whether you're upsizing, downsizing, buying a vacation home, or building a real estate investment portfolio, send me a text or give me a call. It's never too early to make a plan, and the call is always free. My number is 734-882-8194. Again, 734-882-8194. Or you can find me online at realtorandlender.com. That's realtorandlender.com. Whether you want to buy, sell, or finance a home, or even all three, I promise to provide the experience so many of you have come to expect over the years. And as always, thank you, and go blue. NMLS 1011726, Equal Housing Lender.
Long Road Distillers ready-to-drink canned cocktails are made for Michigan game days. Our lavender lemonade is crafted with our own vodka, real ingredients, and an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. No corners cut, no shortcuts taken. Distilled and canned in Grand Rapids, it's ready for the tailgate, the stands, or your post-game celebration. So whether you're gearing up for the game, raising a can in victory, or charting for the next UFR, take the long road. Made in Michigan, for Michigan.
In southeastern Michigan, the yearly cost for a nursing home averages approximately $100,000. It doesn't have to, though. Reed McCarthy founded Ann Arbor Elder Law after handling a tricky situation for his own family. Years of experience later, his boutique firm works with clients across southeast Michigan, dealing with Medicaid planning, long-term care, and tax, disability, and family law, not to mention family dynamics. If you have a family member who may need that level of care, or if you're ready to start your own estate plan, Reed can give you a plan for the future. Visit AnnArborElderLaw.com or call 734-945-9693. That's 734-945-9693.
Whether you just lost a tooth on the field, chipped one at a tailgate, or it's just time to get those wisdom teeth out, Radicke Oral Surgery has you covered. Trusted by Celine and Ann Arbor families for 25 years. The Radicke Oral Surgery team treats every patient like family, and they accept most major dental insurance plans. We're going to have a lot of reasons to smile this year, so make sure that thing is ready. So when it's time to replace or remove a tooth, call up the team that always converts. Visit drradicke.com to schedule. DRRADECKI.com. Winewood Organics is Ann Arbor's only cannabis microbusiness. It's a place where plants are grown in living soil, where nearly every product is made, mixed, trimmed, and packed by hand. Where first-time customers save 25% on everything from old-school hash to live resin carts. You can find them just west of downtown or at winewoodorganics.com.
Winewood Organics, a place where the weed is better.
Closed down, Brandy walks through a silent town and loves a man who's not around.
Now,
she still can hear.
Welcome back to MGoRadio 11.4. Thanks to Karl Kingson for the music this week. We now turn to the upon further reviews, which are of debatable utility since Michigan played Central Michigan. Seth, what did you learn about Jayshon Barham at Edge?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, the one thing that concerns me is that whether or not they're actually going to keep it, or if whether it was kind of a, because they stayed in this 4-3 under no matter what personnel were out there. They just had no respect whatsoever. So to a degree, Jayshon Barham was not playing edge. He was playing extra guy in the box because they were getting rid of a safety and just, daring them, hey, can you guys throw the ball at all? And the answer is no, we cannot throw the ball at all. So Michigan was just playing with an extra guy at the line of scrimmage and letting him kind of do what he needs to do. We did get to see them test him a little bit. They had some plans to deal with him. He has a high-risk way of playing kickouts, which might or might not translate to better teams. But, man, when he plays a zone read, we talked about this on yesterday on WTKA, where, he just grabs the run. He can get the quarterback to give, but he's close enough to the running back that he can kind of grab him and be like, all right, you wait here. I'm going to check him for footballs. And if he doesn't have a football, I'm coming back to you and wrestling you down in the backfield, which is not something I've ever seen anybody do again. His bend is actually pretty good when he pass rushes. It's, and if they want to go that route, it makes a lot of sense, because if you go into the linebackers, Jimmy Roller didn't have his best game, but, Jimmy Roller is also kind of in the process of getting passed by Cole Sullivan, and I'd rather have those guys in the field than just, more snaps for Dominic Nichols, who, isn't really there as a pass rusher, isn't really that. He might get there, but he's a true sophomore, not a whole lot that he's doing that's going to, move the needle, right? So they didn't play TJ Guy at all in this game. I think they really wanted to explore what Barham can give. But I have not yet seen him actually play edge in a nickel, which is a harder position to play. And, is a it's if you're going to have him be your edge, he has to be your edge in the nickel. Now, as far as, is he going to be their edge in the 3-4 or 4-3 under or 5-2, whatever you want to call that, what they do when there's two tight ends out there, I'm all for it, and I think that he's ready to do it. And that's, not a huge surprise. That's what we knew from Jayshon Barham to begin with.
Were you able to glean anything else of value from that game? I mean, Cole Sullivan, maybe?
Yeah, Cole Sullivan is coming. He didn't make any mistakes. Now, they had some quarterback runs against Michigan, and that was a thing we saw against Oklahoma, and they ran the same plays that Oklahoma did. You could tell they watched the tape, and they're like, this works. And then it worked because Michigan wasn't fitting it very well. What they were doing is running down G, which is that, pull the front side guard, very quick hitter, and then they lead block with the running back for the quarterback. So it hits quickly, you have to figure out where your blocks are quickly, and you have to know what your job is. Roller, on several occasions, did not go and hit the running back, which is his guy in that position. And that means everybody kind of gets backed up. Now, once Sullivan got to see Roller mess it up 2 times, Sullivan gets in there and plays it right, and they get no yards, and they have to turn it off. I don't know if that was a, what order it happened thing, or if Sullivan is just there. But if he gets in there, he's not making mistakes, and then you see the athleticism. They have this one play where they're trying to read him in the flat, and you saw Barham blow up the flat, and then you see Sullivan kind of play that same position. And he's doing the same thing. Barham, like these crazy athletic feats where, like, he deters the throw, and then he rushes into the quarterback so quickly that the quarterback gets roped down. And that was an important play, because if he gets him at, 3 yards, then they have a 4th and 2 from the goal line, and then they're going to go, right? They're going to go for it on 4th down. It's a 4th and 5, a 4th and goal from the 5. They're not going to go. They kick the field goal. And that's translatable. It's not like that. There was a running quarterback, so he's a guy who can run like a running back pretty much, and he just ropes him down. He just has the athleticism and that length, right? His hand gets out there, and it's just like it doesn't matter how far he is from the player because that arm is getting all the way around the waist. And those little inches matter so much when you're talking about whether you can affect a player or not. And so I liked him I liked him in the blitz. He was doing a lot of the things that Barham was doing when they pulled Barham out at the end of the game. Sullivan played that position. And CMU is, they're not doing very many complicated things, and you can kind of show him what to do, and then he goes and does it. But, man, it's coming. And I'd be surprised if Sullivan hasn't passed Roller, or at least getting equal time with him by the end of the season. And if that's your starting linebacking core, like those two guys and Houseman, and then Barham is playing edge, or at least in the edge rotation with Guy and Moore, that's a best case scenario for this defense. Can't really tell anything else except for we got some freshman things that there's some freshman moments that we clipped for the previews.
Yeah, offensively, kind of a similar situation in which the opponent doesn't really provide much resistance. So what can you tell? Well, you can tell that, the athleticism Underwood displayed on his high school film translate at least up to a bad FBS defense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he ran over guys, he outran guys, he juked a cornerback to score on his final act of the game. He doesn't look like he runs like a quarterback. He runs like a Cam Newton. He's a special dude in that department. And then you see the return of the face mask throws, particularly on those corner routes about 40 yards downfield. He misses the first one, but he comes back and he hits 2 or 3, depending on how you feel about the Hogan Hansen wheel, like right where they need to be. His accuracy, when he's comfortable, when he's not pressured, is uncanny. Like, it's like JJ.
Mm-hmm.
With JJ, we had like the count the incompletions game. We were pretty close to that in this one. And offensively, like, I thought Guarnera did have a very good game. I thought Crippen had a great game. And Crippen, like 3 or 4 times in this game, did the stuff that you need your center to do on stretch to make it work. Like, he's able to reach guys, and I think that's kind of opponent invariant. Obviously, it's going to be tougher against better defensive tackles, but you can just tell he has the footwork, he has the agility. He was able to mirror a guy in space on the Marsh touchdown. If Michigan could put him in a situation where, he's not trying to one-on-one block a 330-pound nose tackle, I think he could be good. I'm getting the kind of like John Runyon Game 4 situation here where I'm like, is this guy good?
So are we changing our priors on him, or is this this is something we expected to happen against CMU?
Well, I kind of got to see it against a decent defense, but he did survive against Oklahoma, and I think that that's probably the best defensive line we're going to see this year. So if he can do more than survive against Nebraska and probably another week or two, I think it'll be time to start talking about it. But this defense was so bad and so boring that it was hard to really have a full-throated endorsement of what Crippen could be. I do think that the priors are shifting a little bit, and it's going to be suddenly and then gradually and then suddenly, I think, for him, if it doesn't in fact hit where all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
I thought I was a little squirrely about Link. He had a -2, he had a couple more bad run events, and this was a game where Michigan, I think, set a record for run game percentage. And he had a couple of bad pass pro events, not anything egregious, but if you look at the performance of the rest of the offensive linemen versus Link was clearly a half step behind even Andrew Sprague, who's been, I guess, he's been, you can see the promise, you can see the fact that he's a redshirt freshman early this season. And then it's just I think you can tell by the wide receiver snaps that Bell and Moore are probably going to fall down the rotation the rest of this year. And then the other thing you got Justice Haynes looking like a potentially elite back, with the exception of the 1 or 2 plays a game where he swings a person pass protection or doesn't know what the play is. Hopefully we can work on that going forward. But in terms of athletic package, in terms of, the ability to run guys over and also hit home runs, he's an athlete. You can see why he was a 5-star. because he has the ability to do a lot of that Kalal Mauling stuff. But Kalal Mauling will get tracked down after 50 yards, and nobody's tracking this guy now.
Yeah.
Like once he hits the open field, like it happened against Oklahoma, right? Like nobody's getting to this guy once he sees some daylight. So he's the one, and Marshall's the two, and that's how it all shakes out. All right, we are going to cut it off here, and hopefully Michigan is able to win against Nebraska on Saturday. We'll be back on Monday with our flagship podcast. Thanks for listening, guys.
Boris is a mayor and a land surveyor with plans of his own. He hates a Ruska, he hates a vodka bandit from his home. He hates a Ruska, vodka. He never drank a single drop. He hates a Ruska, vodka. There's poison, he swears to stop. He's singing la da 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 la 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 da da la da 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 la 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 da. Then one day Boris was visited by